Oh, go back. Get ready. Ooh, 73 degrees. I'll wait for a person or two to pop in if they'd like. It's been raining recently, which is why the wipers on top of the windshield clean, get the bugs off. See, the road was wet here just recently. I have not heard back. I wrote a letter, an email to Music with Star Streams, trying to find out how I can use their music on here, and so far I have received no response. So I may have to try this from a different angle. But I didn't want to go through some third party, which always makes it more expensive, but since it's what? Minute and a half, nobody. There's got to be somebody out there bored out of their skull. You know, I am westbound on 70. Yeah, I don't know what state I'm in. Um, yeah, I don't even know what state I'm in, but I'm westbound on 70. I'm getting ready to turn off. I maybe Virginia. I get close to it. I get ready to turn south on 68. I mean, we're up to Kentucky right now. With a 1 square foot box that appears to have a very fancy printer cartridge. Got to be the most expensive printer cartridge you've ever had in your life. 1.9. Well, this guy's in a hurry. Dude, you're in Pontiac. Let's get the real. Not exactly a performance machine. 3.2 to my first turn. Aha! I got one. I am returning currently from New Jersey. I got a load on the south side of New Jersey. It's a box, 1 square foot box, and I'm running it back to Kentucky. It weighs about 10 pounds. It is a very fancy printer cartridge. I don't know why people would spend this kind of money to ship a printer cartridge, but they did. The topic I wanted to bounce off today is toll roads. And if you get out, everybody uses GPS. I'm guilty. I use GPS constantly. But if you get out a paper map, look for the roads. If they're green, they're toll roads. And the toll roads, of course, are always the most convenient ones to use. That's what sucks about it. And I have a tendency to avoid them if I have time and if it doesn't take me too far out of the way. My GPS, either my phone or my satellite GPS, I can use either one of them to tell it to avoid toll roads. But you have to compare, because if it's going to take you too far out of the way, it's not worth it. And when I came from North Carolina to New Jersey, there were 3 routes, and the fastest route took it was like $39 in tolls, and it was 14 minutes faster. It'll literally tell you the time. So you have to compare. I got a truck coming up on me hard here. You have to be able to compare your numbers before you make a decision. Now, there are drivers out here that operate. I'm sorry, I got a big truck coming up on me here. Getting around. There are people that run vans and trucks out here that have those toll pass. In Texas, it's called an Easy Pass. I've seen different names for them. And you look at their windshield, and they've got like 5 or 6 different toll tag things on their car. And they go, oh, yeah, well, these states are interchangeable. This state talks to this state. Well, what combination do you have up there that you know about? So you could drive through. I'm just making up. Got to move over. I'm making up numbers here, but let's say you've got a. Let me check my drive here. One. If you have one, I don't know if this is true. Let's say Tennessee and Kentucky share a toll tag, and Tennessee and Florida share a toll tag. And you go through in Tennessee and you're getting charged twice. You're going through it once and they're charging you twice. How do you know which combination you're getting unless you have it broken down to the lowest common denominator? And that's something because when I get home, I sit down on my phone and I pay like $100 in tolls because sometimes you can't avoid it toll rates. But that's something you got to think about. If you're going to be out there with these easy tags, unless you just have one, you're probably okay. But if you have multiples, you could be paying multiple times for the same road. How are you going to keep track of it? Because how are you going to know? Come on, there's too many weird combinations. And their paperwork is different. Ooh, okay, I just turned on. This is Interstate 68 southbound. Hold on a second. By Paros, Wilson, America. I wish I knew what state I was in. I literally don't even know what state I'm in right now. Possibly Virginia. And that's what kind of freaks me out about tolls. Now, when I went to southern New Jersey today to grab this box, I had to go south. I went through Princeton, the college, grabbed the box, went up over a bridge into Delaware for a hot second, then I got back into Maryland. And at the base of the bridge, I went through an electronic toll. So I'm going to get that bill. I went over the bridge and had to stop and pay toll. $6. Oh, that's the standard. Hold on a second. Oh, I don't know if you can see back there, but that dude was messing with the trunk and he had a little kid standing next to him taking a leak. That's kind of cute. And went over the bridge, had to pay another toll. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I got up to speed, and right about the time I got my cruise control set, we went over the border into Maryland, and I had to, wait for it, stop and pay a toll again. So I paid toll 3 times in 6 or 7 minutes. I don't know what the electronic one is, but I got paid $6, charged $6 to $6. Wait, these people out here are toll crazy. So you have to keep that in mind. And I can tell you this, the only state I know the numbers on is New York. New York had a bond came out in 1955 where they agreed to put toll roads on the interstate, which is called the Thruway. And it was a 30-year bond. It's going to take 30 years to pay for all these highways. And blah, blah, blah. So 30 years later is 1985. So that rolls around and the state goes, well, we're kind of addicted to all this free money people taking from motorists. So we're just going to do this forever. And I did a little research, and I recently found out the state of New York makes on tolls, just tolls, $300,000 a month. No. $300,000 a day? Nope. $300,000 per hour. At this point, not only should the interstates and the roads and the bridges in New York be perfect, they should be gold at $300,000 an hour. Have you driven in New York recently? A little spoiler, the roads aren't perfect. Now, I get it. You have snow and you have harsh conditions. And, there's things going on. I get it. But $300,000 an hour and you can't make your roads look a little better? So who knows what all these other states and municipalities are doing? There are now 2 toll roads in Houston. There's Beltway 8, Circle, and then there's one called the 99, which is kind of a big one. What's ironic about those 2 is they are not a government agency. They are a private company. And I don't mess with the toll roads. I don't participate in that. I don't have what they call in Texas an easy tag. It's not my thing. And a few years ago, and this is a new thing a lot of businesses are doing, not just the toll people, but everybody. You know how you auto bill, you auto pay on a credit card? Well, now these companies go, oh, no, we don't accept credit cards. We need access to your bank account, to which I say, go piss up a rope. So they can reach into your bank account and take money out. And you can cancel a credit card. You can't cancel your bank account. A couple of years ago, the Easy Pass people in Houston woke up and decided, you know what, we're going to double the rates. We're going to double the toll rates this month going forward. So everybody got their toll money yanked out of their bank account. And, oh, gee, guess what? It was double. Now, if you have a billing issue for whatever business, and you get a bill and it's wrong, you can call the company, you say, okay, this needs to this, we need that. Yeah, you could fix that. But if they've already reached into your bank account and snatched your money, yeah, they're not real receptive, not really receptive to responding to because everybody's taking your money. That's why I don't let anybody get in the account. But when you're out here expediting, you really need to have cash on board. I carry about between $100 and $200 in cash with me just for tolls, and I also use it for tips for the guys that work at the Pilot Flying J. Excuse me. That's where I use the showers. There's a guy or a girl, full-time job is cleaning the showers there. When they get your own little private room, it's got a shower and a sink and a toilet. They go in there and they wipe everything down and dry it off and give you a new towel and a washcloth and a floor. And they do this little thing. And then it's kind of a thankless job. And I always give, well, look at this fog coming up. I always give the person that does it, if they did a good job, because most of them do, not all, but most of them. Whoa, look at the weather up here. I always give them a legal tip. And it's usually $3 to $5. It depends on what I have. But I keep small bills on hand for just that. Check this out. I think that's at this Maryland rest area right there. I'm sorry, I'm easy to entertain. Oh yeah, this is cool. Coming up on a downhill slope. Anyway, that was my thoughts for today. Look on your paper maps. That's just the easiest way to do it. Anything green's a toll road, and there is a place in West Virginia. This guy passing me on here. There's a place in West Virginia on the highway where you actually go through a mountain pass, and you're stuck. You're pretty much stuck like Chuck, and they know it. So they toll you to death on that road, and they hit you 3 times on the same highway. They spread toll booths out to try to make it act like you're not getting run over the coals, but it costs, I think, $21 just to go through that area. That aggravates me to tears. So what I do is I get on that road and I put in, dude, just get out of the hammer lane. I put in avoid the toll roads, and I can get just to the outskirts because I'm in a van. And I could get off the highway and actually drive through some residential neighborhoods and go around it. It's about $7 a pop to go through it, and that's why I enjoy that. And it takes me an extra 3 minutes, but for $7, it's worth it. I just don't like giving money to toll road people. All right, I'm sorry, I'm getting pinched off here. Over, the guy moved. This guy's slamming on his brakes. Hold on. I don't ride my brakes on the hills. I ride my transmission. This is an automatic, but it's got a 10-speed transmission, and I can drop it in a manual, and I can throw it up and down. And if that guy wasn't blocking the get there lane, I would have been coasting at a way higher speed than I was. That was kind of frustrating. Anyway, that's my thoughts on tolls. And I just spent, I don't know how much money I just spent on tolls. And I'm trying to get down to Catlettsburg, Kentucky. And the route took me down 95 out of Baltimore, to Baltimore and around it. I got there before rush hour, and that didn't help. I got stop and go traffic all the way around Baltimore. This has pushed my arrival time back. Oh, gee, 1 hour at this point. That frustrates me to tears. You have a long drive ahead of you. And the package I delivered this morning was drapery material. And I ended up going to a business and had to circle the block trying to figure out where's the ramp. There was no ramp. There was just a double door on the side. And I walked in there, and it was a bunch of Spanish-speaking ladies, and I kind of had to, I know bits and pieces of Spanish, and I had to say, hey, I've got, got some stuff. And they don't have a forklift. They don't have anything. So I had to open the package and bring all the pieces in one at a time. or one lady signed it off, so I got that officially delivered. Then they called me with this one, which was cool. This is literally some kind of a fancy printer cartridge, which is not something you normally think you're going to be delivering for the price of Expediting. But here we go. Okay. When if you ever get into Expediting, you're going to have a lot of time to be alone and a lot of time to listen to stuff and watch things and talk to people. Well, I get on the phone for an hour and a half and talk to people going down the road. But your brain can wander and just random, weird, straggling thoughts come to your head. I've gone over, but I've talked about quite a few of them here. But something that popped into my head, if anybody's ever seen the play Annie, I went and saw it when I was, I don't know, say 11 years old. We saw it in San Francisco on Broadway. My mother took us, my brother and I. The only thing, the bits and pieces I could remember was we're not having hot mush for breakfast, and all the kids cheered. Then she said we're having cold mush for breakfast, and they all got bummed out by it. Earlier today, I was talking to my mother and talking about food, and I said, no hot mush for breakfast. And she said, no cold mush for breakfast. And perfect. That was a flashback about almost 50 years. So I am experimenting with the band. My set number is 62 miles an hour. I'm kind of I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I got to my destination. I didn't get to my destination. I got to where I was going to stop at 3:30 in the morning, and I was tired. And at the point where I'm yelling, keeping myself awake. I pulled in and laid down, and I've got the way my brain works, my body is. If I'm exhausted, I'm fighting. I lay down, my body goes, "Oh, okay, now you can be awake." So I only had like 3 hours to lay there. And I nodded in and out a few times when I got up and made the delivery. And the location was in Morristown, Jersey. It was in a little complex of businesses that had a huge parking lot. And way in the back, it was a lot of trees. And I went and drove over by the trees and parked real close, opened the sliding door, cracked my windows open, kind of slept on and off for a few hours, just laying there. So I'm not operating on a lot of sleep right now. And this shows me getting to my target at 11. Well, right now, this is going to be a moving number, but it says 11:20, and it is 7 o'clock. So that's what, 4 hours? Yeah, 4 hours to change. And I'm not running on much sleep, but I'm going to be up somewhat tonight. So I'm just happy that I feel good right now. And all that delay I had coming, getting here just recently with the traffic that shouldn't have been there. That's Oh, wait, gas up here is over $3 a gallon. I just paid, well, with my discount at Pilot, I just paid $2.99 for gas. Get down here further, and it's more like $2.50, which, to most people, that doesn't mean a lot. But when you buy gas in the quantities that I have to buy it for this job, you notice it. So my goal going forward, excuse me, with these live streams, is I am trying to get music that I can play on here just to let it roll, just see the terrain and let different kinds of music roll. I am struggling with the technology of making it play music while streaming because I've got all kinds of music on my phone that I can start, and as soon as I stream it cuts out. And I need to find, what is it, a 6-year-old that knows how to do this stuff. And then once I figure out the technology, I got to find out the licensing and how do I get permission? Because there's a lot of people that have music on their videos. I just don't know how you get that permission, and I don't know the technology of how you make it work. I'm a Verizon guy. I went to Verizon. I said, "Hey, how do you do this?" The guys, I don't know. I kind of thought those guys were techies. So I need to learn how to do this. It's actually darker outside than it looks. This guy next to me is actually lights on. Like I said, it's darker than it looks. Ah. Ooh. Yeah, there was an accident here a while back, a couple hours ago, and traffic was backed up. And I run a CB with, well, more fun. I run a CB when I drive. The CB radio is pretty quiet these days, but with something going on, the radio lights up. So all this traffic was slowing down. Yeah. Right when it was coming to a stop with a rest area, and I was going to pull off at me, and one of the guys came up on the radio and said, "Stay out of the rest area. It's backed up. Everybody's stuck." So I changed course and stayed on the highway. And sure enough, there was a line of vehicles and trucks going up the on ramp to get into the rest area, and people had gotten out of their cars and were walking around because the traffic wasn't moving. And just as you're getting ready to pass the rest area is where the choke was on the road. And we went past it, took off, and nobody was coming out the exit. So something was going on in the rest area. Everybody was piling in, but nobody could get out for some reason because there were no cars, no trucks coming out the other end. I'm like, ooh, that was close. And that's one of the reasons I like having this radio in. Spell check. Yeah, I like to have them. You don't have to, if you get a radio, don't go out and buy some $1 million model. Buy a cheap one, they do the same thing. And just remember, back to coasting. Just remember that the range on a CB is generally surrounded by, there's different kinds of antennas, but generally speaking, you get 1 foot of antenna gives you a mile of reception and transmission. And I run a 36-inch and 3-foot magnetic mount on top of here. And it's been working good for me. I have no complaints. Coasting. Hold on a sec. Coming around the corner. I've driven through Virginia coming up here. I am going to Virginia going back. And there's a big sign on the side of the road that says, radar detectors are illegal. Technically, they're not. They are, quote, banned. Not a law against them. They just don't like having them. So anytime somebody says that, realize you can put a sign on the side of the road that says, if you meet somebody named Bob, you need to hand him a $10 bill. You can put any sign up you want. My radar sits on my dash and it stays right there going through the state. Whether or not they like it, tough. So when I was coming through, they had a series of speed traps, radar speed traps going on in the dark. And I started looking. And if you know where to look, you find them. And when I see them, I call them out with their mile marker. You tell the other drivers, in the median or on the shoulder by marked or so and such, and which direction they're watching. And people will pass that information down the line. But that's, doing your civic duty. There's not a lot of drivers out there going that fast, but still, these guys get real petty. And I was telling you yesterday about that quasi near miss I had driving on that secondary road. When people ask, where are you on the highway, drivers, emergency vehicles and whatnot use mile markers. Let me show you one here in a second when it comes up. So if you're driving professionally or you're listening in, you want to be able to just kind of subconsciously keep track of the mile markers. And I'll show you one here coming up. Like I said, a radar detector is a good tool. It doesn't give you a green light to speed, but it does help out sometimes. You see here. Come on, mile marker. There was a lot of traffic earlier today. Bumper, stop and go. Ugh. But look at this. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. I like driving like this. Oh, it's kind of cool. Oh, no, there's one out here. This is where they open it up to 3 lanes, and that's this right lane is the climbing lane for trucks like this guy right here. Oh, he's gonna lose his lane. Where's my mile marker? We're out here driving around trucks. You can make a lot of friends by helping them out, by giving them a space, room. You're going up a hill and he's coming up behind you quick, speed up or get out of the way because they're using momentum. And if they have to back off, it just ruins their run and ruins everybody behind them. This is weird. I saw a mile marker a while ago and I haven't seen one since. This is kind of odd. Oh, hill time. I'm coasting. You're not supposed to coast. I coast. Sorry. These gas mileage go up. There it is. Coming up on the right. Right there by the railing. It says mile marker 58. That tells you reference point. If you ever have to call 911 or you're talking on the radio to somebody, you can say I'm at 58 or 58 and a half because the numbers are going up. I think they're going down. Actually, that's right. A few years ago, when I was expediting, right when COVID kicked off, and the Grand Canyon flying tours all shut down. I did this for a while. I was cut through a park in Kentucky, a national park up on a ridge line, just being a tourist on the route. And you've heard of the Smoky Mountains, and that goes in one ear and out the other. Why would they call it the Smoky Mountains? Well, have you ever been somewhere where a campfire is burning and it leaves a haze over a wooded area? It's very distinct. And it just so happens that the Smoky Mountains, just for some natural reason, look like smoke from a campfire is present, even though it's not. It's natural, but it looks smoky, and that's where the name came because it physically looks like that. And I looked at that, but wow, cool. What are they called? The Smoky Mountains? Duh. I didn't know. The wife and I have some paint projects coming up. She is, as we speak, she is at Sherwin-Williams buying a bunch of paint. We set up an account there, and the two advantages of having an account is they keep track of your purchases. So 6 months from now, when you go and buy paint, you go, what color was this? Because you could never remember. Trust me, I've been down this road. And because I'm a veteran, I get a 10% discount automatically attached to our account, which is nice. And we were going to buy paint a couple of weeks ago, and the guy leaned forward said, oh, by the way, this week we're in now, this paint's going to be 40% off. And that paint isn't cheap, the stuff they sell there. And I was like, oh. So if we can get my 10% and then get another 40%, that's why the wife got sent on a paint mission today. And we have a townhouse, and the great advantage to painting or owning a townhouse is when you do any kind of remodeling, it's how much per square foot. You're going to put in new floors. How much does it cost? You got to, all this stuff. A townhouse, it's 952 square feet. For us, it's perfect. It's perfectly large. But the cost per square foot to remodel it is frighteningly small. So we use premium everything when we built our house. We gutted it, redid it. We're basically changing the colors. We tried a warm color. Now we're going to try there's a word for it. But it's the closest thing I can say. It's steampunk. It's kind of a darker hue. And she found some really cool painting. Now, by the way, going forward, if you're going to paint your house, get into Chat GPT and tell them what you like, and they will start putting color combinations together that you never considered. My wife called me and she was flabbergasted at the ideas it came up with that looked really good together. So hopefully when I get home here in the near future, she's buying the paint right now, so I don't even know what the extra colors are, but she said it looks cool. Look at the fog up there. So just put colors together that you wouldn't think would go together, but when you compare them, and then they have these programs now where you can actually take a panoramic photo of a room, load the load the picture, and then we'll put the colors on the wall and show you what it looks like, which again is pretty cool technology. Same with floors, same with other stuff. So we're going to have a paint-a-thon going on here in the near future. Yeah, I like the highways being like this. Open. This guy's the climb lane. Marker 53. Yeah, the numbers are going down. So I got to move over. So this guy, he's not doing anything wrong. He's just, this is what the truck can do. Go back. Yeah. There's a guy on the West Coast. There are limits to how much power. Back in the day, CB radios could be like 3 power. Yeah, we don't do that. Yeah, I got you licking chicken on that radio, Chip. Licking chicken. Licking chicken is loud and clear. Look at what talking to me. There's a guy out in California. Like I was back up a step. Radios were in any 15, 20 watts of power, and they are legally limited to 4 watts. Not that anybody's ever going to check it and look, but your radios are 4 watts, which is very limited. And like I said, your transmission is 1 foot per 1 mile per foot of antenna. So you're only hearing what's around you. But back in the day, you could hear transmissions another state away. It's kind of different back in the 70s and stuff. But there's some clown out in California, Rocky Gap State Park. Huh. There was some clown out in California to this day that transmits out of California and gets on here and just runs its mouth and preaches and teaches and just wants to talk about blah, blah, blah. You got to turn the radio off when that guy starts making noise. In case you're wondering, they're going 82 miles an hour right now in neutral. This is how you get the gas mileage to go up. Whee! 84. This is just wind resistance. I can actually hear the antenna whistling on the roof. Choo-choo. Oh, back to cruising. Okay. That's what I'm supposed to be. I bought this van with 109,000 miles on it in January. I started driving in March. I now have 167,000. So I bought new tires for it, and now I've got almost 60,000 miles on those new tires. And I've rotated them around. The end result is tires wear down just from natural use. They actually, the question is if that rubber's coming off the tire, should there be big piles of tire rubber on the side of the road? And I asked the tire guy that, and he said the rubber actually gets burned up. It turns into little molecules, and it's invisible. It's gone. But when I bought this van, the tires were pretty bad, and it made the tires loud going down the road. As soon as I put these on there, it got quiet. Well, after 60,000 miles of highway cruising, this van's starting to get loud again. So I am not too far away from having to put new rubber on this thing. And this next trip home, I'm probably going to give it a brake job, which I may or may not need. And I want to have the guy look at the bearings, the wheel bearings. because those don't last forever. And back in the day, excuse me, back in my day, bearings, you would pull them off by hand and you would pack grease into it. There's a tactic to it. Load them up with grease and you put them in. Well, now the bearings, at least on Ford product, they're sealed. You can't really mess with them. You can just replace them. I don't have a clue how much bearings cost. Not a clue. Oop, downhill, downhill. Back to coasting. So I gotta call this guy, my mechanic that I use, and ask him. So we coasted again. So I was expecting to hear from the wife by now about her paint adventures, but she hasn't said anything yet. I've mentioned this in the past. I actually talked about it in a video that you can actually make money off a credit card if you know how to use a credit card properly. And the wife and I well, I technically have two, but one of them I haven't used once. Uh, we have an American Express Gold card. We had a Platinum card for a while, which is good for traveling. Since I got out of aviation, we don't travel nearly as much, so we dropped one level down to the Gold card. The Gold card gives, whereas the Platinum card gives more reward points towards travel and hotels and whatnot, airfare. The Gold card gives big reward points for buying fuel, buying groceries, and eating at restaurants. In a lot of cases, it's 4 times points. And how I use my credit card is I treat it like a debit card, which people think that's weird, but I use it. Okay, hold on, I gotta wash my ears. All right, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Where'd you go? There you are. I use it like a debit card. I use it for everything. And every once in a while, you walk into a store and they go, "Oh, we don't take Amex because apparently there's fees, and some vendors don't like it." But I use my Amex like a debit card. I use it for everything. And then every day or every other day, I go on it and just pay it off, whatever it is. It could be $427 paid off. It could be $16 paid off. I zero it out constantly. So instead of using a debit card to pull money out of my account, which is what a debit card does, I use my Amex and just pay it off. I never, ever, ever, ever leave a balance on. This is zeroed out. And then you get points. You get reward points off of that. And you can use the reward points to pay against, your bill, but I actually, and I get cards in the mail depending on how many points I have, and it's like a disposable gift card, like something you would get from the grocery store, and we collect them anywhere from we've got some 25, we've got 50 and 100. Pile them up. We have a little box we put them in. They don't expire. And I told the wife, we're buying paint. I said, hey, I got an idea. Why don't you use those cards since we've got a stack of them? We've got, I don't know how much money, but you're getting this paint to redo the house. Remodel projects aren't free. I said, go ahead and just use that money for it. So we're getting 40 or possibly 50% off the price of the paint accessories. Whoa. Oh, that's that money. And we're going to do it with what I refer to as free money, which is the same philosophy I use with my the Fetch app. I use that money for Amazon to buy oil and filters for this van. So I changed, instead of paying $110, $120 for a synthetic oil change, I just do the oil change myself with Fetch money, which is, again, free money. All right, what town is this? Oh, this is possibly West Virginia. I got to get around this guy. Come on. I like how that guy sits out. And yes, it's a lot darker outside than it looks. That screen looks like a middle of the day. It's dark out here. That guy's hurry. So's the guy chasing it. Him. Hold on here. Down 2020. Okay, Keister, West Virginia. Yeah, I think we're in West Virginia, but I didn't see the border crossing. I guess I wasn't paying attention. By water the other day because I can't find a rest area that has water. Can't find my containers, so I ended up spending $4 on a jug of water, and I am down to the remnants of that, which kind of sucks because I've got one full bottle and one drizzle in a bottle, and that's it. So I need to find a rest area that has water available. I'm going to find one up pretty soon. Sorry. Oh. Come on, man, you can do it. Hill's not that steep. Haystack Mountain. Is this Huntington coming up? I think this is Huntington, West Virginia, coming around this next turn up here in a minute or so. Looking out the right door. State police, and I know what that is. I got a grand total of nobody on board right now. I imagine with the climactic conditions around here, this would be a challenging place to fly from a pilot perspective. I know the Appalachians are a tropical zone. And back in 2018 or 19, well, 2018, the wife and I went to the town of 10 Sleeps, Wyoming, which is up on the Wyoming-Idaho border. And we pulled a Bell Jet Ranger out of a hangar and flew it all the way across Wyoming into Colorado on the western slope of Grand Junction, clawed our way up over the Rockies, and flew across Texas, and got it back to Houston to a guy who had purchased it. And then he did whatever kind of work the helicopter needed. And then he called us again, and we flew it to Elizabethton, Tennessee, Kentucky. Elizabethton, Tennessee. I think it was Tennessee. And it's here in the Appalachians, which is, again, a tropical zone. The weather was a little wishy-washy because of the climate around here. It looked like this. And we flew, and we got to an airport that was on the other side of a ridge line, just like right here. When we were, as the crow flies, probably 3 miles from our final destination, and we couldn't get there. And I called the guy and I said, yeah, we're over the hill. We're on the other side of the hill. And I said, what have you got there? And he goes, it's pretty bad, but you can still see. So we took off, and it's a helicopter, so you can cheat a little bit. And we flew kind of scud run, followed the highway, went up over the hill and got in there and landed. Woo! That was enough adventure for us. That was a rough ride. But a Jet Ranger is first generation turbine powered helicopters. And the original flew in 1967, and they fly. They're okay. They're just, when they were designed back in the 60s, people weighed 130, 140 pounds, which is not what most people weigh nowadays. So by today's standards, it's a little bit weak and a little bit slow. And when we flew it from Wyoming, across Wyoming, and if I could describe a Bell Jet Ranger on a cross-country flight with a sound, it would be it just up there at altitude. It just wasn't powerful enough. We got there, but it was strolling. We were doing like 85, maybe 90 knots indicated. Other helicopters do 120, 130, newer stuff, A-Stars, Bell 407s. So we were just kind of strolling along in this thing. But it was an adventure for the wife and I, flying this little teeny tiny aircraft. We got some good pictures while we were doing it. We flew across the very center of Wyoming. And if you ever wondered what's going on in the middle of Wyoming, the answer is nothing. There is nothing in the middle of Wyoming. There wasn't a ditch, a rock, a tree, or a hill. There was nothing. Like when the engine quits and we have to land, which way do you walk? I don't know. There's nothing out here. Took off from 10 Sleeps, went over to an airport that was right down the street, topped off on fuel, and then flew to Rawlins, Wyoming. In Rawlins, it's along Interstate 80. And do you remember back in the 1990s, there was a little girl that was going to be the youngest person to fly across the United States with her and her dad and the flight instructor. She was like 7. And she wore a hat that said "Women Fly" and was the big thing. And they actually crashed in Rawlins, and she got killed. Everybody on the plane got killed. And as soon as it happened, I knew what was the cause. And they were flying. Ooh, look at this weather. Again, it's much darker than it looks on the screen. They were flying Cessna 172, which nothing wrong with it. It's a very basic airplane. It's kind of light in the power, not good on the payload. Reduced visibility possible. Yeah, I think so. And you can only carry so much weight in an aircraft. You're dividing your weight between, passengers, crew, and fuel and bags. The problem is the lower you are at altitude, the more you can fudge that. Not legally, but you can fudge those numbers and get away with it. Well, these were California pilots, so they're flying at sea level. They're used to having all this extra fudge factor. Well, they were at Rawlins, Wyoming, which, oh, by the way, is 7,000 feet when you're sitting on the ground. So you're already in thin air before you even come off the ground. Well, they took off, and they were trying to do it in a certain amount of time. I don't know, they're racing the clock, and there was a storm coming, and there were some cameras there making it was on the news. The storm was coming, so they were in a big hurry, and they took off, and they found out later they were overloaded. 2 adults, little kid, gas bags. They were overloaded, and they took off. And based on the photograph of the wreck, which was at somebody's driveway, they came in conflict with the storm, and they turned at low speed. And in that super thin air, if you stall an airplane, and you are not perfectly in trim, meaning the air is hitting your nose perfectly, and there's a teensy bit less, if you're just slightly off center with the wind, and one wing is getting a fraction of less air than the other, when the aircraft stalls, which it's going to do at high altitude like that at low speed, it's going to fall off on that wing. And I think that's what they did, was they stalled, fell off on the wing at low altitude, went into a spin, because the whole wreckage was sitting in somebody's driveway. It did, hit the ground and it fireball for 100 yards. It literally dropped in this person's yard. So I think that's what happened, is they used sea level get away with it flying tactics at altitude, and they don't work. You can't do that. You know, it's not the little kid's fault. She doesn't know any different. It's the flight instructor slash her dad who was a pilot who, needs to take that into account. But when you spend your whole flying career flying little planes at sea level, you're not going to know the limits. I mean, on the book, they're there, but if you've been getting away with it, you're thinking, oh, yeah, I can just do this up here. No, you can't. Wow, why does it look so bright on the screen? It's so dark outside. This is crazy. It's top of the hill. There's a Aspen, Colorado is where all the rich people go to hang out. They have an airport up there. They get a lot of these people with the private planes, twin engine prop drop planes come up there. Let's say it's a 6-seater plane and they land and 8 people get on. That tells you somebody's not doing the right thing. And whoa, getting foggy, getting froggy. And wow, holy crap. This looks a whole lot better on the screen than it looks in person. Wow. People with a 6-seat plane fly up to Aspen and land from sea level, and 8 people get out of it because there's 2 people sitting in the aisle, which again, they're overloaded. And they used to take off and they'd stall on takeoff because the plane's overloaded. And there's a golf course up there, and these planes would end up literally crashing on the golf course when they stalled out. It happened enough times that they actually had to put a person at the golf course that would fire a horn. Oh, wow. To let golfers know a plane was taken off to keep their heads up because they had enough planes go on the greens. Wow. Curious what the altitude is right here. Kind of curious. Not gonna lie. Sorry, this has me somewhat distracted. Ooh, now it's getting dark. Look at that. It's even fooling the camera. Oh, wow. The camera can't even focus on this. It's so bleh. Oh, all of a sudden it's clear over here. Wow. What a difference. Oh, hurt the mileage. All right, back to coasting. Wow, look at the difference you can see for miles now. Huh. Whee! Yeah, that's bizarre. Outside of that ridge, starting to get to where I almost started to slow down, and now we're over here. You can see forever. Back up the speed here. Back up the speed. Go. Already. Wow, this cloud's an awesome film. Well, I like doing a 1 hour stream during the course of the day or the night. So coming up on an hour in about 5 minutes. So once I get a sudden barrage of people, don't like me, I'm gonna bail off here at 5. And the one great advantage of driving in the rain peels all the bugs off. As Lord knows I got enough bugs on this thing. All right. I'll bail early. I'll catch you guys later.